Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. This is Wendy, and today we're going to be doing the fourth video in our Cozy Winter series and using all Dollar Tree products. Our first project will be using the Buffalo Check baby blanket, a piece of microfiber cloth that you get in the hardware area, an 11 by 14 picture frame, and then this is a cutting mat. They come two in a package, but we're just going to be using one. And then for our supplies, we'll be using some Waverly White chalk paint and some black apple barrel acrylic paint, a white bistro chalk marker, and all of those paints are from Walmart. And then we'll be using the Silhouette Cameo 3, and so I have some gray vinyl, transfer tape, my spatula, weeding tool, and squeegee, my glue gun, the ruler and scissors, and I don't use the Chanel stem, but I do use the sewing machine, but that's okay if you don't have one. Just use a needle and thread because what we're doing is super simple. And then I have a piece of construction paper and a white pencil. It totally doesn't matter. This is just for a pattern. And then a little pom-pom that we made before in another video, and I'll link that down in the description box. So we're going to start with our picture frame, and these are really cheap, of course. I mean, it's only $1, so you have to be careful when you pop open the little holders, because two of them fell off, but it's okay because what we're putting in there is real light and it doesn't need to be super secure, but just enough to stay in. So having three sides was fine. Then we're going to start with the painting, and I mixed the black and white paints together to get a gray, and I made it in a shade that would complement the Buffalo Check baby blanket. So you just want to paint this on there, and it takes it really well, so it wasn't blotchy or uneven or anything. So after I painted the whole frame, and you want to make sure that you get the insides as well, and I recommend putting it on paper towels because as you can see, you can turn it, but also between coats you can move it out of the way and work on something else. So here we're going to be taking that construction paper, and I just kind of traced out my hand, a little larger than your actual hand, but just to give you the shape of a mitten, which is what we're going to be making. So after I cut the mitten out, I'm going to pin it to the Buffalo Check. I doubled it over, and if you remember in other videos about the Buffalo Check fabric, there's a grain to it, so you want to be sure that you're going against the grain so that it doesn't really pull apart. In this situation it doesn't matter as much, but anytime you're cutting it, just know where your grain is so that it doesn't kind of disintegrate in your hands. So after I cut that out, you're going to do this twice, so you'll have 4 pieces all together. So now I'm going to sew those 2 pieces together, and I just used a pretty small, I think it was a 2 as far as my stitch size, so it was pretty close together so that it doesn't come apart, because again, the fabric is not that great, so it can fall apart, but this will keep it together when you have a smaller stitch. So once I got that done, I wanted to make little cuffs or edging for the mittens, and so I took some of the microfiber fabric and cut that in strips, and then I'm going to wrap it around the top of the mitten, but I'm first going to glue the edges to give it a finished edge. Once I got that done, I took some of that batting and stuffed it inside of the mitten, and then you don't want it to be too full like an overstuffed pillow, but just enough so that it looks like there's little hands inside. And I started with the thumb just to make it a little bit easier, but just pull apart the batting so that you can make it a little fluffy. Now I'm going to attach the cuff, and I just put hot glue in the middle on the top and the bottom, wrapped it around, and then I'm going to attach it in the back with another dollop of hot glue. And then using some more of the microfiber fabric, I'm going to fold it in half and cut out a half of a heart, just like we used to do in grade school for Valentine's Day, and make a full heart. This one was a little bit too big, so I ended up cutting it down, but just to show you how I did it. And then I'm going to hot glue those to the little palm area, or the up toward the top where the fingers would go, of the mitten. So once you get those attached, I'm going to take my glass and clean it off, and then using my Bistro paint pen, I'm going to make random circles to mimic snow. And I did 2 different sizes, just large ones and then small ones. And I have the cardboard backing behind it so you guys could see, otherwise it would be on the white work surface and you wouldn't be able to see it. So here it is all done. Now I'm going to measure where about I'm going to need to put my words, and so I place my mittens about where they're going to go, and then I can measure to see how big my decal needs to be. So for the word winter, I used the font ABASTINA, and for hugs I used cream candy. And I'll put that in the description box below so you can see that if you have a cutter and would like to use those. And I downloaded those from dafont.com, and you can get those fonts for free. I've been asked to do a tutorial on how to actually download those fonts, so I'm going to do a tutorial that goes over everything, and I'll do that in that video soon, hopefully. So also, if you don't have a cutter, you can purchase this in my Etsy shop, which is White Sparrow Living. And all of this vinyl weeding and everything is ready for you. And it has the transfer tape on there and ready to go when you receive it if you purchase it. So, and then now I'm just squeegeeing it on and getting it ready. And so to assemble it, I take the little cutting board or mat, and it had to be shaved just a little bit to fit inside the frame. So I did that with just a regular pair of scissors. And now I'm going to take a piece of the buffalo check baby blanket and measure how big it needs to be the background. And it's going to go behind that film just to give it a real soft, snowy look. And I wish you guys could see it in person because it's really dreamy and pretty and soft. So anyway, the pictures don't do it justice, but it's very pretty, so, and super easy to do. So now I've put it all back together, and I'm clamping down the little holders by folding them over, and then I'll take the decal and place that onto the glass up toward the top. Now once my words are down, I'm going to hot glue the gloves, and I just kind of overlapped them a little bit over the frame just to be cute. I don't know why. So now to hang it, I'm using a white piece of ribbon that I had in my stash, and I just used some hot glue and glued them down. I should be using my rubber thimbles. I can never remember what they're called, but I'm not, and I'm going to pay for that in the next DIY. But then I just tied that little pom-pom to the top, and then it was done. And you can also use this if you don't want to hang it or don't have a place to hang it. You can also put it on a plate holder and set it on the counter. But I think it turned out really cute, and it reminds me of my grandchildren. And I was going to use my granddaughter's hand to outline, but she's been sick, so she's better now, but she was going to be the little hand, and those would be her hands hugging me at all times. For our next project, we're going to be using the same baby blanket in the buffalo check and a microfiber cloth, some scouring sponges, and these come 2 in a pack, and so that gave me some inspiration. And then one of these plastic headbands, they come 3 in a pack, but we're just going to be using 1. My glue gun and scissors. And I did use a black bow and another pom-pom in this DIY that I didn't show here. So the first thing we're going to do is cut a couple of strips of the microfiber cloth and then glue it on each of the sides to give it a finished and soft edge. And then taking one of the headbands, we're going to start gluing that on the inside so that the little pointy things inside don't hurt my granddaughter. And so I am not using my thimbles, my rubber thimbles here. And this is where we have a crafting 911. I burned myself so badly, and I mean, my fingers still have blisters on them because it burned big time. So I decided after the fact to put on the rubber thimbles, and these, a viewer had told me that they had some at Dollar Tree, so I did have those. I found those after she told me, but I went ahead and did all 10 fingers because it was horrible, you guys. It still hurts, so be careful. And a lot of you guys had been warning me all along saying you're gonna get burned, and so I did. Anyway, now we're gonna just cover that headband, and I did the underside first just to make it fluffy, and then I wrapped it around again on the top and then glued it on the inside. Now my daughter is helping me because I was afraid to get burned again, and the headband wanted to close on itself, so I needed a set of hands, and she was afraid I was going to burn her, so she got armed with the rubber thimbles. And so yeah, it was just a real adventure. So now I'm going to take the scouring pads and I'm going to cut those down a little bit, and keeping them still circular, we're going to be covering them with the buffalo check blanket, and these are going to be Mickey ears. I don't know if you guys saw that in the thumbnail, but we're making some Mickey Mouse ears. In the wintertime, lots of people still brave the cold and go to Disneyland. And so this is something that is a fun craft you can do with your kids too before you go to Disneyland. So I'm just going to cover the entire sponge, and I just cut slits all the way around, and then as you see, just fold it over using the hot glue. And then I cut out a circle to cover up all the where I gathered everything on the back. So here's a tip: if you do burn yourself, cold salmon works wonders. So after I took my lunch break, I attached the Mickey ears to the headband, and then I'm going to attach that black bow to the ears by putting hot glue behind the loop of the bow. And then after that, I'm going to put another pom-pom right in the middle of that black bow, and then I'll add some lamb's ear and a bell to embellish it. And here it is all done. And it's funny because my niece was actually here when I was working on this, and this was all her idea. She had even grabbed the bow and made the whole design herself. For our next project, we're going to be using a baby blanket, a milk jug or milk bottle, the glass kind, some of these chalkboard tags, a white paint pen, some lamb's ear from Walmart, and some jute twine, and just random leftover pine cones from Christmas, my glue gun, scissors, and wire cutters, and then some Waverly white chalk paint, as well as some black apple barrel acrylic paint. And the first thing we're going to do is just start painting that glass bottle. And I did very light coats on this, so I think my paint job was pretty good and not like I normally do. So I am getting better every time. So you just want to cover the entire milk bottle, and it takes about 2.5, 3 coats. After it's dry, I'm going to add some black acrylic to the top, and I'll take my paint pen to do the front little label there. But that's actually not even going to show because I'm going to put my tag over it. But since it's a winter tag, you can take it off to use just during the off season anytime. So then I cut a piece of buffalo check blanket out, and I measured how high I wanted it to go because I'm going to wrap the bottom, and it turned out to be about 2.5 squares of the buffalo check. So I just wrapped it around and then cut it off to the right size, and then I'm going to hot glue it, and I have that selvage edge that I can use as a finished edge, so it'll look nice and neat and tidy. After that, I wrapped some jute twine around the middle of the buffalo check fabric, and I ended up wrapping it 3 times around and then tied it once, not in a full knot yet. And then I'm going to add some lamb's ear to the side. And since I couldn't find a little sprig that would work, I just kind of made my own by attaching 3 leaves together. And then I glued that whole thing onto the side, kind of diagonally up towards the right there. And then I'm going to add some pine cones, but they had some glitter on them, and I wanted them to be snowy and wintry and not look like a fall decor piece. So I painted them, and then while that was drying, I took my white paint pen and just wrote warm milk on the tag, and then put 2 little dots next to the milk. And then I'm going to take some jute twine and pass the loop through and then pull the ends through that. And then I'll tie that to the front of the jug, and I just wanted to cover up the little circle area there. So now I'm going to make a little jute twine bow, and I just did 3 loops on each side and then tied that to the part that I hadn't yet tied, and so now that's what's going to hold it in place. So now that my pine cones are dry, I'm going to cut off the edge of part of it just to make it a little flatter so that when I glue it, it stays in place. So I placed 2 different pine cones kind of at an angle from each other, and then there was a little empty space, so I just took a little bit of the buffalo check blanket and cut a real small piece and then tied that into a little bow and hot glued that right in between where there was a little gap. And here it is all done. Now I'm gonna try to do a hot cocoa / coffee bar video soon, so you can use this just empty on that, or you can use it as a vase and put some lamb's ear inside, or you could even put a candle on top. The candle was pretty cute too when I was trying different ways of using it. But all in all, I think it turned out really cute just for a milk bottle, and the total cost on this was, well, $1, maybe $2, because I have leftover tags and just using scraps from the buffalo check and some twine and paint. That's really it. So I'd say this was maybe a $1.25. So I think that's a pretty good buy. Now for our final project, we're going to be using this chalkboard, and it's pretty cute the way it is, but we're going to change it up to maybe go with a coffee bar theme. And I'm using a plate holder and then my vinyl, my black apple barrel paint, and the first thing we're going to do is get the little piece of chalk off of there. They glued a piece of chalk to the back so that you could use it, and then take off the jute twine hanger because we're not going to hang this. And so using my black apple barrel paint, I'm going to paint over all of the words so that we can't see that, but it'll still look like a chalkboard. So I put my paper towels down and began painting just to cover those words. Now I'm going to get my vinyl ready while the paint is drying, and it took about 3 full coats to cover those words because they were white. So, and I'm going to transfer the letters. It's all in white font or white vinyl, so it's hard to see. But it says "Help Yourself Warming Station." And so we offer coffee, cocoa, Jesus, hugs, hot tea, and love. So I thought that was cute because that is how you can help yourself. So I'm just going to apply that to the board and using my squeegee and get all the bubbles out. And this is a pretty big decal, so you have to kind of be careful with any of the letters coming up when you're pulling off the transfer tape, because that's a lot of stick going on there. And so once I got that off, I'm going to embellish the top part of the sign. So because there's not a lot of room there, I'm going to have to improvise and come up with a way that I can attach my bow. So what I decided to do was glue some popsicle sticks to the back of the sign, and I used about 5 and then just left it hanging past the end there so that I could attach my bow. So to make the bow, I'm going to cut some strips of the buffalo check baby blanket, and I just did a fold over method, but I'm going to put 2 sets together. I didn't even attach the pieces together, so I just used some paddle wire and attach those, And my battery died when I was making the bow, but here it is, and I attached it using a scrap piece of the buffalo check selvage edge that I cut off when I made the bow. So I think it's really cute how it came out, and it's very soft. So now to add some greenery here, I'm just going to hot glue and place that in between, and it's actually being glued to the board, and then I'm pushing down to make sure that it attaches securely. And here it is all done, and there's the Dollar Tree plate holder that we used to set it on. And I think it turned out really adorable. I love the message, and I am going to be using this in the coffee bar setup that we do. And so I hope you guys like it. So I just noticed that the eye didn't come off from the decal, but it'll be on there the next time you see this. So if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and let me know what you think. And I appreciate all the feedback I've been getting and all the love and support. You guys have no idea how special that is to me and how much I appreciate it. So if you haven't already, they did unsubscribe a bunch of people, so check again just to make sure that you are subscribed, and if you haven't, please do so. I hope everyone has a blessed day. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to always be the light. Bye.